The following program deals with controversial subjects. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
Tonight on This Week in Redacted.
After 12 years of skepticism, a husband's unexplained ghostly encounter revealed. From predictions to reality, is this the startling truth behind our economic chaos? Otherworldly sighting over Colombia, but what is the truth? After 4 days of mystery, a live TV crew stumbles upon a tragic discovery. A close encounter of the comforting kind. A bizarre personal story. All this and more coming up.
I am Ryan Redacted, and this is the podcast where we examine the top 5 most abnormal news articles from Reddit. So with me as always is Chris Redacted. How you doing this week, man?
Doing pretty good, man. It's been an interesting week this week. Just everything that's been happening in the world, work, life at home, gas being expensive.
Oh man, the gas thing is crazy. I'm actually surprised there hasn't been like a conspiracy theory top post literally just around the gas, the way that people are on fire with the prices right now.
I mean, it's pretty expensive. I think what it's like here in Los Angeles, I think it's like almost $6.50. I think we talked about this the other time.
What's the max that you think it's going to hit? Because I know that there's that one gas station that's just like crazy. It's like a couple dollars ahead of everyone else.
Well, there's the one I think at Beverly Hills. It's like almost like $7.30 or something like that. Like, I don't think it's. I think the highest it's ever been is maybe like $8 there, and I think the highest I've ever seen is probably what it is now. And it's just like, and everyone's paying it. Everyone's okay with it. I don't think we're gonna riot anytime soon for it.
Well, honestly, I don't think anyone's okay with it, but yeah, everyone's just kind of forced to pay it, right? You don't have to go to Beverly Hills, but I guess if you're in Beverly Hills, it's not even an issue anyhow, right?
Yeah, definitely not. What's so funny is, because I work retail, dude, it's not stopping people from shopping. People are going crazy for Christmas stuff.
Oh, really? Already? It's October.
We just skip Thanksgiving pretty much in retail, go straight to Christmas, got to start making that money, finish off the third quarter strong and start the fourth quarter even stronger.
What happens with Black Friday?
Like, Black Friday's still a thing. It's still like one of our busiest times of the year, and it's do or die. It's gonna be, I think, do or die for like all brick and mortar, with just like what's going on right now with like, what is it, like CVS, Rite Aid, all the brick and mortar. Just Amazon is just killing everything. And I think I'm a part of it too, because I went to Rite Aid to go buy some water, really, and I ended up buying it from Amazon, what I needed, and the water. I think I went to Target, and I was like, I think I'm contributing to it.
Yeah, hey, at the end of the day, it's just going to be one mega corporation feeding everybody in a feeding tube, right? Like, that's going to be the end game.
It's going to be like the movie WALL-E.
Yeah, like, well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're all going to be riding around on those. I'm ready for that hover thing, that hover.
You're already halfway there, right?
I'm already halfway there. Just set me up already, dude. Just set me up with the little hover thing, Have it be like a Idiocracy too, like the Gatorade.
Yeah, absolutely. Man,
but
dystopias. Dystopias are becoming real. What can you say?
It's kind of scary that I was the other day I was gonna watch Soylent Green. I don't know if you ever watched that, about the future where like food runs out.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody that's never watched it, but there's a famous thing that Charleston Heston says at the end, but it's quite an amazing film. If you've never watched it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Oh man, speaking of dystopia, I completely forgot to get this like loaded up, so I'll probably just toss this on the side for the podcast when we re-edit it. But basically, I saw this and I immediately thought of you. It's AI related because I've been just
Okay.
on an AI complete deep
Bender.
dive for the last month, right? And it's basically a tweet from I think it was a Stanford professor who is working on a project. God, what was the name of it? It was like Eureka, something like that. Um, and what they're doing is they have like a robot hand that's like a human hand that's got like thumb and fingers, and they're using two different models if I remember correctly, like one high level model and then one like low level model to have the hand do high dexterity tasks. So what that all translates to is the challenge that they gave was to do the spinning trick, right? Like with your fingers and like a you know straw or stick or blade or whatever. And
Hmm.
then the video just showed like all the different generations of this thing just training and learning how to do it to the point where it's like better than a human. And the first thing I thought was like, oh man, I gotta send this to Chris. I totally forgot about it
I know,
though.
I'm like, how the AI is bad. It's really bad. This is the best way I have conversations with everybody. I was like, funny enough is at work. We have like self checkout, and everyone's like, this is gonna replace jobs. It's gonna replace humans. And I was like, no, maybe when AI gets in it, it might replace. But at the end of the day, I'm still gonna have my job because people get stuck on them. And then it happened exactly to that customer, and I was like, see what I mean? But they're starting to get scary, man. They're starting to put AI in everything, and it's just I'm for it, but I'm also very hesitant about it. And I mean, every week I think I talk about AI like taking over the world, and like we're gonna make great pets.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're gonna get that far, but like I think the applications are insane, and like for this one, just seeing the dexterity of being able to move something with the fingers is just that one is very the uncanny valley, right? Like the whole idea
Yes.
that yeah, this just like immediately bypasses the uncanny valley straight into just like horror territory where you're like, okay, well now it can open doors, now it can do gang signs. Now it can bump fists, and it can build context around all that stupid stuff too.
Oh, the gang signs. Someone is gonna throw Bloods and Crips. It's like,
Yeah,
good
there'll be two
lord.
AIs, right?
He's like Johnny Five's alive. That's what's
Yeah,
gonna do.
man.
I was gonna sing the song, but I'm not gonna do it for the movie. I know what you're talking about. The
Ah,
locals
you
kick.
should sing it. Yeah,
I
do
don't
it,
even know
do
it by heart.
it. Man, such a great movie.
It is, right? Johnny Five's alive.
Yeah, but dude, I love all the applications and stuff, and I'm actually building some hardware here so that I can play around with it quite a bit. So I'll probably have some of that out on the podcast as I'm
Okay.
experimenting with it, just because I think it's. I mean, honestly, like the stuff with just the graphics alone, just the like stable diffusion, which does the image processing, and now is starting to do animation, is mind blowing. If you haven't seen that Reddit, the stable diffusion Reddit, the stuff that people can put together and it's not just like, hey, tell me, construct PopCap toys of myself or whatever. It's like take some text and it's like They Live, right? Remember They Live?
Yes. Great movie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You'll have obey as the text and embed that in an AI generated image of women, I don't know, at a party, right? And you don't see it like if you're zoomed in, but the moment you zoom out, you can see that it's very much just an obey
Dude, it's so
message.
powerful. The other day, I was making fun of one of my online friends, and we were making fun of him saying that he's an elevator technician, and that he lives inside an elevator, and that he plays video games. And I went to Stable Diffusion, and I put in everything that we were making fun of him, and it made an amazing picture. Like, I put like middle-aged man, bald, Argentinian descent, Canadian, and it did like everything that I anticipated it would do. Like it was amazing. It was just like the most awesome thing I've ever created. And I just gave it like the prompt. Like it wasn't even complex. I didn't even have to like write so many things in it. And it just created it beautifully. I loved it that I was like, remove this color, put a little bit more gray. Like it's amazing.
Here's the question I have, right? Is especially, tying it back to the podcast. This week I watched a whole we were talking about this before we started, but I watched a whole bunch of videos on just debunking UFO videos, paranormal videos, those kinds of things, which we actually started doing in the last podcast. We were doing in the reaction side, and we're just like, okay, well, how would you
Like,
go
how would
about?
we do this? Like, what do you think? Like, how we were debunking it in a sense,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it felt like that's what we were doing a lot more than actually like trying to prove if it was real. We were just debunking it.
Well, yeah, because I mean they were so obviously bad. But here's what I'm getting at, right? Is like as AI starts to develop and you're able to blur sort of, because it's not just can you make a great image. You can have like a parameter in there that values tricking people at some point, right? That starts to weight tricking people as the cost function that just basically is, this is the thing we're training this on. Man, when that happens, oof, you're gonna have all kinds of just videos that you're not gonna be able to debunk. And I don't know how long that is from now, because it's already at the point where like you go on TikTok, right? And people are believing all these very clearly just like string pull scenarios, as like a ghost is opening this, or like an alien spaceship that is really just like a motion blur in After Effects. So people already have a pretty, their threshold for sussing this stuff out is already pretty bad. But when you have something that's like intentionally training to trick people, and it looks authentic, right? And it's doing all the right stuff. Man, it's going to be so hard to take any evidence online, any kind of like image, and use it as like a basis for, this experience happened.
No, you're not wrong. Maybe they'll create AI to like counter that. I think what's gonna happen. Like
Oh
they're
my
gonna have to.
god.
That's what's gonna be. It's like AI to. It's gonna be like Blade Runner, but AI. Like really, that's what it's gonna be.
Or it'll be
Just
like Terminator 2, Arnold versus,
yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be Arnold versus the T-1000. Like I think it's just, which is kind of scary. That's like sci-fi, crazy sci-fi, movie theory books. Yeah, I think that's what it's gonna be. I think people are gonna create AI to detect other AI, and if it's like designed to trick you, it's like people now write papers, and I've never used it, I've never seen it, but that you could have put it into a format page, and it'll say like, yeah, it's been written by AI, this specific amount of percentage. And I think with that image a couple of weeks ago, that what we saw too, like this was like AI generated, and it's going to be like that. It's going to get much more sophisticated, and it's doing it very rapidly.
My favorite part out of all of this, though, like honestly, is that the dystopia that we're starting to edge into, like, I did not predict any of that as a kid
No,
at all. I
no,
did
no
not see
way.
any of that coming,
It's like making it
right?
all AI, where it was like nuclear, uh, what is it, catastrophes and apocalypse is what caused it, and we're all gonna revert back to like the caveman era, and it's not even anything like that. It's like AI destroys the world.
Yeah, and those stories definitely existed, right? There's plenty of this, the AI destroys the world stories existed as I was growing up, right? But like I never saw it coming, like personally. Like I never saw
No way.
this
I
getting to
couldn't even
that
tell
point.
you like 5 years ago that this is what it was going to be now. Like this is what it was going to turn out to be. Like AI was just going to jump so ridiculously fast. It's like how computers evolved, I would say, from like the 70s to like, I would say now. It's like how AI is developing and how rapidly it's just improving, because there's so many people doing it. There's so many companies that are investing in it and putting all their money into it, all their effort, because it's the future. It's like what you have: Microsoft, Facebook, uh, Google, and that's just a couple of the big ones. And it's like other companies that I don't know of. It's like they're putting all their chips in.
Yeah, hey, did you ever watch the Lex podcast that I sent you that had him
No,
talking with
I
Zuckerberg?
haven't yet.
Okay, I'll see if I can put that just a quick overlay on the podcast. But that is some amazing. I feel like that's some amazing technology. Basically, what they did was they did a high res 3D scan of Lex and Zuckerberg, and they've got like a Quest on, or like whatever the most recent headset is, and that actually there's face scanning that goes on, and they've mapped a 3D, essentially a 3D game model to
Of them,
their
right?
of them, yeah, of their face, to so that when you move a portion of your face when you talk, the camera picks up the movement and then initiates the model and then transmits the model over. And it's eerie how human it looks like, if you weren't looking and you weren't nitpicking, at least in the video that I saw, you would not be able to tell that it wasn't just them in reality. And then number two, they're having this conversation, and the experience of being in that headset and talking face to face with someone is incredible. And
I
just
don't know if I'm
imagine
ready
when
for
the
that
AI is
though.
there.
Like I don't know if I'm it's like I play video games to a certain extent, and I just don't know if I'm willing to be to go to that next level yet, because that's what's going to start happening. I think it'll start with video games, people getting that immersed. It's like, playing your avatar in video games now, and you're starting to see it. I don't know if I'm ready that. That's like the boomer in me talking, but it just takes one company to release that one game that just changes the industry standard, and then that's it. We're all stuck in that. We're all that. And it's like it may happen, it's like it started to happen, like Half-Life Alex, I think, is one of those ones that already started doing things like that. And it's not completely AI, but it's like you're playing virtual reality. And I think once it does that, AI gets involved, it's going to change the field. And I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride over the last or next 10 years, I think. Have you ever seen Battlestar Galactica or Caprica?
Yes, I've seen both of them. Great.
Okay, so like the whole the in the so for people that haven't seen Caprica, essentially the starting point that's relevant for this conversation is they're in the fall of Rome era of their society, and part of the fall of Rome is the decadence and the just you know every single sensation has to be fulfilled, and everyone's exploring everything they could possibly explore without morality being tied to any of their actions. And in Caprico, the way that that happens is they have these virtual spaces where they have beheadings, they have everything that you would picture like on the dark web, basically, like red rooms and all that kind of stuff is going on, and there's no consequences, right? It's like it's like it's a video game, but you are causing people to feel pain, and you are causing you know um, all that kind of stuff. And I'm really curious. I wonder if because I already know in virtual spaces, Second Life, right? Second Life had like huge controversies over all kinds of like communities that would like crop up, and they'd have to prune them because they were just absolutely horrific illegal content communities where people were
What's like
reenacting.
you don't have, I don't know what it is. It's like they lack maybe like law and order in them. There's no consequences in it. So then people
Yeah.
truly start doing some weird things and creating weird cultures in it. And I think that's what Second Life does. It allows you to do that and be that. And unless someone is watching it, it'll create these weird groups. And yeah, Second Life is one of those famous to do that.
Yeah, and I'm just picturing Second Life on steroids. Like you overlay that Zuckerberg tech where you've got your headset on and you've got the 3D mappings, and then maybe you've got like a couple virtual AIs in there doing all kinds of stuff, and it's just like, man, it's going to be the whole space is going to change in the next 10 years for sure. It's not going to be you're playing World of Warcraft and there's like 100 polygons on your screen, or RuneScape or whatever. It's going to be you've got your headset on and you're basically in Caprica, right? You're experiencing yourself getting beheaded.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm ready for that. It's like I did something wrong in the game and I broke a law and now I'm getting decapitated. Like, oh no. It's like I'm
uh
afraid of going to like real jail, and imagine going to like cyber jail.
oh my god.
No, I'm not okay with that. I'm not ready for that yet.
Well, we still got a couple years before it happens, so just
I
enjoy
mean,
games right
do
now.
we really? I think maybe in the next like 10 years, I think it's gonna really advance quickly. if we don't kill ourselves, over war.
That's a pretty high bar. Well, you want to get into the top 5 for
Yeah,
this
let's
week?
definitely get into.
All right, let's kick it off with number 5. So this one is actually from the cryptozoology category. However, it's from a Reddit called Humanoid Encounters. Not a lot of upvotes on this one, but I think that more or less indicates less activity on the Bigfoot side of things. But this one's a personal encounter from a poster. And so just kind of going over it, we've got this lovely picture here that the poster drew. And effectively, the claim is that they've been visited by aliens basically their entire life. And the high level view of this, right, is that they had a breakup. And after the breakup, one of the gray aliens came down and comforted the person. And that's
Oh man,
that's a story. So
it's I don't even know what to say about it. It's a strange story. It really is. I don't know anybody that's ever shared their personal alien encounters like that, coming and come visit them. I don't know anybody. Like, I've never had a conversation that they have aliens come and visit them, or they've had grays, and just for movies. So this one's really hard for me to swallow, like, to believe that this actually happens. And I'm a super believer, but things like this, I just don't. I don't believe it comes on the terms of, like, you just have to believe me on this, and I can't buy into this. Like, I just don't think it's to this caliber. There's something wrong with them. They went through a traumatic event, so now they're trying to reach. I think they're just trying to get people to, like, listen to them because they're hurt. They just got out of a relationship. But I just don't. I don't believe in this. I don't know what you believe, but this one is really hard for me.
why do you have to pick on this poor person who's just sharing their experience about an alien picking them? Like, come on,
Comforting
like
them,
where do
like,
you draw
no.
the line? Where do you draw the line? Huh?
I'm not drawing a line or anything, but I mean, what do you think? Like, what do you feel? Like, what do you believe in this? I mean, you're the super
Well,
skeptic.
oh man. Okay, so look, I have had experiences that I can explain, all right? And if I thought an alien had come down and visited me and I wanted to share that experience with people, cool. I think, I should be able to do that.
On that
It's
on that
hard to
premise,
believe.
yeah, on that premise, I've had something super weird happen to me. I've shared it once or twice with a couple people, and yeah, it does. I'll sound like this. This is exactly so. To her credit, I've experienced something I can't explain. Most people think that you're crazy. Like, you're crazy. You're actually crazy. I feel this person's actually crazy. There's actually something wrong with them.
Okay, so here's where my question then is, right? Because we've been watching encounters and we're going to be wrapping that up and in this episode, right?
Crazy,
What makes the encounters people are crazy too?
crazy. No, the last episode, crazy. I think
Okay,
it's
last
just
episode crazy. Yeah, but
okay. So now what you're gonna say is, what makes this person crazy? Like, where is
yeah,
the
what's
category? Where do I draw the line? What is it that they have to hit in order for them not to seem crazy? It's obviously, this is not an accepted norm, and that's, like, a big problem with it. Now, there's been some great, you know, self books. Like, Communion is probably one of the best ones about, like, alien visitation and having them come and visit. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's
Mhm.
based off the book, and it's Christopher Walken's in it. And I think it's one of those great stories that been shared. Like, it was like a whole family that experienced this. So I think a lot of this trauma that have come from movies and books, or potentially that someone might have had something, like, they might be like one-offs. So I I think a lot of people are crazy, dude. I've experienced this community before. They're not too far away from the Bigfoot community. These people are sending me pictures of Bigfoot of nothing in clouds, and I don't see a big difference from them. I've interacted with them, so
Why do
I
you
don't
have
know.
to trash all these communities? I thought you believed in them. What's going on?
I do, but that's what I'm saying. I'm looking for evidence, and all the evidence I'm finding is just, it's garbage. It's just Oh man, I sound like a super skeptic right now, but
All right,
it's
I'll take the opposite side. All right, just so that we
okay. Take
have
the
like
opposite side. Like
all right.
I just don't believe. I don't believe in any of these. I don't think. I, I think what we believe as an alien life is not this. I think it's totally different. I think it's much more uh, of a maybe a potential race that's just coming and visit us, but they're not coming down. They're not making themselves known like that. Maybe they might be abducting people and taking them, and those people disappear. Is what I think is actually happening. And maybe they're getting killed in the process. But I don't think that someone comes and takes them and probes them and comforts them like this. Like, no, I don't think this happens.
It's a high bar to prove. And again, like we talked about this, I think a couple of weeks ago. If you think something like this is happening, get a camera. Or if you have like a spouse, shouldn't they experience something similar, right? Like there's all these like little low hanging fruit techniques you can use to basically highlight this thing's happening where it's not happening. Because here's an alternative, right? Uh, and a lot, I know this is going to sound crazy, okay? And I don't actually believe this, okay? But all of this could be happening in the person's head and still be true. So we're assuming all
Which,
kinds of things
which,
about experiences and reality, right?
which is you are right. This could be happening in someone's head. It could be happening in someone's mind. But I'll get to that later. But I think the mind is so powerful that I think it could potentially be creating this. And like I said,
Sure,
I'll get to that
sure.
later about that.
Good.
But it could
In
be
psychology,
yeah, it could be in someone's mind completely. Like they're manifesting this 100%. Now, is it actually, you know, being created from a manifestation? I don't think so. There's something wrong with you if you think that this is what's happening, that you're manifesting this, that you're creating this. No, I think you're actually potentially 5150.
yeah, there's all these like lower level reasons for why a person might be experiencing this kind of thing that you kind of you have to go through these and rule them out before you jump to yeah, this experience is real. And having said that, think about all the movies and media that we've ingested in our lives that center around a person having an experience that nobody believes but is actually happening and true, and how crazy they look to everybody. And then the whole point is like after the fact is it was happening, and
I
everyone
think
else
I
is
won't
wrong.
believe it until it happens to me. I have personally
Yeah,
had two UFO experiences my entire life, but I've never had like dreams of aliens coming and visit me or grays coming and visit me. I've never had that experience that I've been like, like followed or they come in the night, or a lot of people sometimes relate paranormal activity to actually ghosts. Not they're not actually ghosts, it's actually aliens coming to visit you. I've heard that theory. I don't know if you've ever heard that. And I, I I've never heard that. Like I've never experienced strange paranormal activities to think that it's actually aliens. Like I don't believe that. I think that's too far fetched.
yeah. Well, this one's definitely thumbs down for me, just to be clear. I
It's
was just kind
super
of
thumbs
playing the
down
other
for me.
side.
As much as I'm a
Yeah,
believer, like no, like I think this hurts more potential, any future movement that we have in this field, UFOs, like I think things like these like this hurt it. Like the whole bodies, Mexico, I think that hurt. It's like we went backwards. And things like this make us go backwards of actually proving if there's, extraterrestrial life outside of our own solar system or even in our solar system. I think things like this actually discredit it.
do you think that you have to rule out all personal experiences like this then?
Potentially, unless it's a whole group. It's like a city. There's
Okay.
something experiences like that, or a whole family. Then maybe it'll be like the guy that wrote the book Communion. Like I think it starts getting a little bit on that there's multiple people reporting.
Okay, so generally speaking, on your take, you have to rule out individuals making claims. When you get to groups, it's a different story. You have to start looking at things a little bit differently.
I
That's
think
what
you
you're
have to.
saying?
I mean, what I'm doing in a sense is I'm eliminating 90% of all cases and stories by
Yeah,
doing that.
it's a lot. Yeah,
It's
for sure.
eliminating everybody. So I don't know. It's always a difficult conversation to have. It's like, what do you have to hit in order for it to be credible? I think is what
Yeah.
is always going to be the problem. There's always going to be oppose and approval of it. Like the whole Bigfoot picture that I send you, like there's two different communities, two trains of thought. I think that's what's gonna is happening with this.
So this person seems pretty put together. I mean, they're coherent with their story, right? They're
It's one thing to write this; it's another thing to interact with them. Like if you were to
yeah,
I could say the same thing about that lady that sent me those Bigfoot pictures. She looked
yeah.
normal on her Facebook picture. She looked normal on her Facebook account. The minute she sent me all that stuff, I knew this lady is certified crazy.
All right. Well, I don't want to go so far as to say certified crazy for anyone because I'm not a medical
I'm not,
professional.
definitely am not, but when you see Bigfoot in rocks, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a little sus. All right. Well, I think we can put the both thumbs down on this one. Let's
No
get
disrespect to the poster or anything like that. I
yeah.
personally believe that no, I don't believe in that. I don't believe people get visited like this in the night. Like I just don't. I don't. But
Also, we're
no,
both wrong all the time, so
absolutely.
just take it with a grain of salt. All right,
And my
number 4.
apologies to the original poster if you happen to be watching this.
All right, number 4, ghosts. All right, so this one's great. Almost 2K upvotes. A lot of people thumbs up this one. 12 years living in this house, no experiences. And then one day, husband experiences something they cannot explain. So let's dig into this one a little bit.
I have to say, this house, the picture just looks creepy. The house I
Oh
grew
man,
up in,
first thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
The house I grew up in had this similar vibe, like creepiness like this. Like it's old. It's just it looks run down, beat up. But the house I grew up in, it looked like this kind of, and it just has that criteria of just old, beat up, built in like early 1900s. It just has everything needed for a creepy story.
Creepy ass Halloween stuff
Absolutely.
on there. Yeah, man, that's the thing that really sells the photo for me is like there's a creepy clown in the background and like a skull, like a skull dog, right? Just hanging out there.
Yeah, the clown, it just has, the Halloween decoration. It is, right now, October 22nd. So
Mm-hmm.
total Halloween vibes.
So yeah, this one's another personal experience, right? And
See, but I
so
don't know why I believe this one more than I believe the other story. It's because I think this one's more realistic. I don't know, like I buy into a little bit more because I've had personal experience with strange paranormal things in the house I grew up in. So maybe that's why I favor this one versus the last post. Um, I've I've experienced what he's experienced. I've gone through that, and and that's why I believe this one. And I don't know how you feel about it, like behind it. But yeah, my paranormal activity at my house began when my parents remodeled it. Like the paranormal activity in that house skyrocketed, and it was something similar to this. Like nothing happened for years, and all of a sudden we remodeled the house, and it's like we pissed whatever essence, presence, ghost, being, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in, belief. It's like we upset it because it just took off. It wasn't like malignant at all, but it was like it did not like what we were doing to it. And I think that's what was happening in this home. I think they were moving in, trying to fix it up, and maybe the spirit or being or whatever didn't like what they were doing and then started making themselves known. I think a lot of cases are like that about strange paranormal things. It's like people move in, they start remodeling, and it's like I'm not okay with it. Whatever spirit is there. Like personally, like let's say I pass away, I live in this house or apartment, and I don't know that I'm dead, and something comes in, I would feel the same way, like the movie Others. I think that's it. If anything is going to get close to explanation, I think that movie explains it very well. And I don't know how you feel about it. And for whatever reason, this one resonated with me, and I'm way blabbering. So go ahead and chime in.
well, let's start with the husband's experience because it's a pretty simple one, right? He basically said he saw a reflection of a male with a full head of hair walk across the kitchen. So that's it. He was creeped
And
out
it's
about it.
yeah,
They
it's
are they are doing remodeling if I remember correctly. If I think it's in the comments. So there are a few more details there, but it's a really simple experience, right? It's just like saw a reflection of a male with a full head of hair walking.
So my dad was exactly like this in the house. He didn't believe anything. He thought we were all making it up. And all the same thing, like the orbs that we would see, the orbs and the pictures that we would take. Because that picture I send you with me having orbs, and you're like, it's just dust. A lot of our pictures have that. The random footsteps we used to hear because it was wooden floor, music, voices. We used to hear voices. We used to hear what sounded like the door opening and closing, and no one would be home. So around the time when my dad retired, this is the house we grew up in. All of us were already like either out of the house or almost on the verge of going out. I think I was like in my early 20s, late 20s when my dad retired, and he would say that he would hear me coming home, walk around the house, go use the restroom, go into my bedroom, and then that he would come out and it's like, hey, why don't you say hi to me? And it was nobody was home,
Mm.
and he would hear things like that, and he never believed. He always had an explanation to it, but it was the same thing. He had this one time an encounter in the house that he couldn't explain, and the encounter was that when he retired, he got up in the morning because he was used to getting up in the morning because he was an electrician for the city of Los Angeles. And so he would get up early, and he went into the bathroom, and in the bathroom he was using the restroom, and he said that the faucet turned on by itself. And he stopped and he looked at it and he's like, how did it turn on? And he's like, okay, whatever. He turned it off. So then he was trying to figure out like how it turned on. So he thought, well, maybe my mom turned it on. Maybe she was going to take a shower and she didn't realize that she had it on. And he went over and went to go look at the bedroom, and my mom was sleeping. He's like, well, maybe Chris has it. Maybe he turned it on, and maybe he's the one that was going to go take a shower. He goes in, he says, and I'm like dead asleep. And at the time, my sister had just moved back in, and he's like, well, my sister, maybe she went to go turn it on. And our house was like weird with the piping that if you turn on one side of the house, the other side of the house wouldn't get water. And he's like, well, maybe she got up to turn on the water. So he went down there, he went to go look at her because we had like 2 stories. So he went downstairs, he went to go look at see if she was, maybe taking a shower. And he says that there was no water running or anything. So when he went back into the bathroom, the water was running again. And he went to go look at my mom and myself, and we were both sleeping. And he just like turned it off, and he's like, I couldn't explain it. He's like, he said specifically that he saw the knob turn, but he just couldn't explain it. He couldn't, and he never believed, but that was the one thing he said. He's like, if this house was haunted, that was the one moment that I believed that it was haunted. But everything else, he had an excuse, or he just didn't believe. Like he was extreme skeptic. I don't know if he was doing that to keep us calm because we lived there for like 30 plus years, but like this is how what their experience is like kind of what I experienced in the house I grew up in. Strange lights. There was lots of strange lights in that house.
I
Voices.
mean, they only had this one experience though
Just
in 12
30
years.
years, yeah, like but that he experienced, so most likely all of the family is experiencing the random footsteps, the music, the voices. And my dad
I
used to say
mean,
the same thing. He's like, it's all in your guys' imagination. You guys just have a very vivid imagination.
yeah, there's nothing. The OP doesn't mention anything extra. I don't think.
But I'm telling you from experience of the house I grew up in, he's like, he's seen it. And then the very last line is the orbs, the random footsteps, music, voices. He has always said that it's our imagination. My dad used to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, but this one could have been like some dude walking around in their house, right? Like, there's.
Maybe.
It's not like he saw like a faucet turn, right? Or like a
But he
chair
saw a
just go like.
person though. Like he saw, and we would see that in the house I grew up in. Like we would
You'd
see
see random
like
people.
random people. There we used to see a man in all it looked like a wool suit, and then another lady wearing like maybe like a blanket, and she was like covered all, and then she would walk from one side of the house to the other side of the house, like through one bedroom to the other side, and there was like a hallway. And sometimes my mom would see her and sometimes my dad would see her, and he would say is like, oh, it was my sister, or it was your mom walking into their room, and you're like, no, it wasn't. So things like that.
Yeah, but okay, so there's some big differences. One, you had a consistency, right? Like your
Super.
experience, yeah, yours was consistent. This was like a one-off. Is what I'm reading it
That's
as.
his one off though, because he didn't believe. But I'm
I
saying
don't think
is
the wife had
I
any
think the wife, like the
experiences,
fact
right?
that she was, the post says like the orbs around the footsteps of music. That means they were all hearing things, including the kids. And the dad
Mm,
was the one writing it off, going like, "No, you guys are crazy. It's all part of imagination. There's nothing wrong with this house. It's not haunted. You guys are all tripping." That's my dad. That's my dad in a nutshell in that house.
gotcha. I
To
see.
this day, he still won't say that house is haunted, even though my mom and my three older sisters, my grandma, my aunt, and my other aunt, rest in peace, they all said. My cousin that used to live there for a little bit, she would say that she's like, "This house is haunted." I've had friends that would go over and sleep there, and they would all say the same thing. He's like, "Dude, your house was haunted." It's like I hated going to your house at nighttime.
I don't know, man. Like the orbs thing, I don't
Orbs could
know.
be dust, but like footsteps, voices, apparitions,
None
like I just
none of these are like his experience, right? Like that's what I'm getting at. Is like it's not like the guy was singing a show tune, the ghost was singing a show tune as he was going through the mirror, right? It's like he's the only person that's experienced, and it could have, I don't know, it just could have easily been like another person, right? I don't know. I mean, first of all, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
he's look, see, he's explained away every other experience, but this one he
Yeah.
can't. So they've all experienced stuff in that house. And he's sat there and explained it. Like my dad used to do that. He used to do the exact same thing. And he was like, "No, it's this, no, it's that. Like it could just be like, like one time the trash can fell over and he's like, "Oh, the what ended up happening is you guys put too much trash. You might have put a heavy bottle on the top and then it tipped over and that knocked the whole like he would sit there and explain things like that. But all of us used to say like that house is haunted, like it was haunted. And when it posted and I read this, I was like, "Oh man, this is like the house I grew up in." And I haven't lived there in over like 16 years. And the odd thing is, maybe a couple of years ago, more than maybe like 10 years ago, is I was renewing my license and I never updated my address and it got sent to my old house that I grew up in. So I knew it got sent there and I walked over there and I was like, "Hey, at the time I just lived down the street from there." And I was like, "Hey, I used to live here. My parents sold the house to you guys. Like my ID got sent here accidentally. I just wanted to know if you guys have it." And I knew they did. They had teenagers and these fuckers took it. I already know that's what happened. And they were like, "No, no, no one. There's no ID under this name. We don't have any mail for this name." And I was like, "Okay, well, sorry to bug you. Thank you. Have a good day." And they're like, "Hey, wait." And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And I already knew what they were gonna ask me. They're like, so they asked me in Spanish. She's like, "Did you used to haunt here?" And I was like, I was like, "Yeah." She's like, and then she told the other lady, she's like, "I told you." She's like, "I told you this house is haunted." And then I told her, I was like, they used to like turn on the TV, turn on the faucets. We would hear knocking. People would close the door. The doors would get closed. It would sound like there was rats upstairs, but if there's no rats, I say we used to have cats and rats. The doors would open and shut in the back. I said the lights downstairs used to turn on and off by themselves, and my dad's an electrician, and he would even change things about it. We used to see people, is what I told her, and we would see two specific people. This one gentleman that looked kind of, I'm going to say Native American, and another lady that just looked like, in her late 60s. And they're like, "Oh my God, you guys see the same things that we used to see." And I was like, "Yep, they used to haunt us here." And I've moved on, lived in different places, and I've never had anything happen to me anywhere near remote that close. Like maybe like 1%. Like I've had the lights turn on and off here in my apartment, but you could explain like me and malfunction, but
Yeah.
like that house, nothing ever again in my life. That house was built like in the
And
30s, and I can't even tell you like who owned it before. My parents owned it in the early 60s. Yeah, I couldn't.
the ghost stole your ID
It,
too.
it definitely did. I don't know. This is
Just
gonna
saying.
turn into like story time, ghost time here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just reading this, I would just have been like, yeah, whatever. It's not like it's easily
Mm.
explainable. I think honestly, like I don't count these as like music and voices. Like there's not a lot of detail here. It's not like me and my son heard Linkin Park playing in the background all of a sudden, you
That's not
know.
what I'm saying, but they like voices. We used to hear like it would be like mumbling. Like I can't. It would
Ooh,
just.
that's
It was
creepy.
like. It was like. I know exactly the noise it used to do, but I don't feel comfortable ever like doing it again. It was like it makes me very uneasy doing it. But we used to hear like it sounded like that's exactly what it sounded like. And I wasn't the only one that would hear it. My oldest sister, she would hear it. The one after that, and like I said, I had three older sisters. My mom would hear it. My grandma would hear it. My aunts would hear it. Friends would come over and they would hear it.
Okay, but isn't that just like old house stuff? Like if you okay, here's my question. Do you think if you tore that house down and then rebuilt up with a modern house, it would still be haunted?
Yes,
You think so?
yes.
So if there are any viewers that want to purchase that house and give it to Chris so that we can tear it down and rebuild, we will test that for you.
Yeah, Los Angeles, California, the city of Glassell Park is where that house is haunted. People
It's
live there. I
like a
wouldn't
$10
like
million
give
experiment.
$10 million experiment at the moment, you know. But yeah, that house is super haunted. And what's crazy too, it's on the street where there was devil worshiping also on that street because the street connects with another street and it makes a perfect cross that's upside down. And we would come across like sacrifices, dead chicken, rotting meat,
What?
yeah, like crazy stuff like when I was a kid. We would find like voodoo heads with like burros, which is like that Cuban cigar. It would be
Uh-huh.
seashells. We would find that around there in that street because it was an upside down cross. The church that was on that street, up the street, burned down, which is just like it was the Church of the Latter-day Saints. It burned down too. There was weird devil worshiping up that street too. Some group. This happened like in the 80s that they were selling firearms or something like that. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was on my street, hiding from the cops underneath the 2 freeway. Like he was
I
right by
remember that
there.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Wow.
it's one of those things I was like, yeah, that if anything is haunted, is that house was haunted.
Man, the sacrifice stuff is really interesting. I did not know that existed. I mean, I've driven to. I mean, I told you the story about when we were driving around late at night and it was up in La Cañada and there was
The
like
the
all
people all in the white robes. It's like
the that
I've
wasn't La
experienced that.
Cañada.
Yeah, yeah. I've experienced that up there too.
Yeah, that was up in the haunted forest. The La Cañada stuff was like uh, pentagrams in the ground. I think a lot of frogs, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that was weird too. But yeah, there was a
It's
lot of
weird, but
devil
that's
worshiping.
people. That's people. You know.
Yeah,
And
it's
why
just
are you infringing on someone's right to practice their religion? That's what I
I'm
want to
not.
know.
I'm not, but it's just weird stuff. A lot of weird stuff happened on that street. I'm not gonna give the person's address because people still live there, but yeah, that house is haunted.
Okay, we'll put the address in the show notes. How about that?
Definitely that way you could go check it out.
All right, let's hit up number three. All right, number three. This one's interesting. Almost 3K upvotes. Pretty spicy on the spice meter, so a lot of people downvoting this one. And this one is an example of mirror propaganda. So this is a meme describing the people who claim Trump would crash the economy and start World War III have crashed the economy and started World War III. So we are talking a little bit about this one before the show,
The
and
whole
I'm not
mirror propaganda is
yeah,
what you were talking about.
yeah, I'm not super up to date with propaganda techniques, but this one's was absolutely interesting, and it's just basically what it sounds like is accuse the people that you're against of the things that you're actually doing. And just as the teaser for the opener, right? It's kind of not aligned with sort of like the title here because it was kind of a clickbaity thing about
It's
the
funny
economy
if you really
crashing.
think about it, like, because it's like at the beginning, people would all say that, like, Trump was going to crash the economy, he was going to get us into wars, and and then it's like, it's kind of crazy what's happening. And I'm not saying right now, like, yeah, like we're going into World War III. I mean, they've been saying we're going to World War III since like the 80s. It's like
I
we've been
feel
in
I feel
proxy
like
wars for years.
yeah, absolutely. And here's my take on this one. I think it is absolutely mirror propaganda. However, it's mirror versus mirror. And it's just crap light just bouncing back and forth all the time. Whatever side you pick
It's like
is going to be throwing.
that Spider-Man meme, dude. It's what it is. Or just like
Yeah,
that's what it
everyone pointing
is.
at everybody. Exactly. 100%, dude. That's my take on this. And oh, we should switch over to the big old meme. And so, I see stuff like this and I'm just like, first of all, is this really a conspiracy?
No,
I
I don't
mean,
think it is. It's just as you said it's a mirror within a mirror, and it's one of those things. It's
everyone's
funny.
trying to do this crap,
It's
right? Like that's
funny.
all it comes down to.
It's
Yeah.
like it's not like the economy is like truly crashing. They've been saying it's been crashing for a year. I mean, it's rough. Inflation is pretty ridiculous. We're in these proxy wars, like the Ukraine and Israel now, but we've been in proxy wars as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. The whole Contra
Yeah.
wars, and it's like that's, which is fascinating. I started going into that, looking for stories and stuff like that, and it's just like this is the ongoing thing we've had for years. We put in puppet regimes, like United States does, and it doesn't always work out well. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole of conspiracy theories.
Well, it's interesting. It's also not something like people are already so disconnected with their local politics, their state politics, and federal politics. It's kind of a hard sell to have anybody expected to understand anything going on outside of any of that, right? Because people barely understand things that are happening around them.
I mean, I don't even know my local politics. I don't even know. I don't
Oh,
even know
dude,
who my mayor
LA's
is at the time.
yeah, LA is crazy, man.
Karen Bass, or what's her damn name? God, I'm a terrible Angelino.
Yeah. Um, so, my take on this is I think what it comes down to is just the government's not structured to have any accountability on anything. So, of course, they're going to be doing all kinds of propaganda tactics, whatever they are. Like, that's all that's going to happen because people are trying to optimize for winning, right? Or getting whatever it is that they want to have
Dude, as my old
done.
political science teacher says, dude, it's a popularity contest, and that's what it is. And they're going to do everything they're going to possibly do to try to win it. And these are things that, like, his supporters are going to try to do, but then there's like opposite side, it's like, oh, he's got no chance now because someone is going to run now. And it's just like more propaganda. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
even know, like, the Kennedy, right? Like, now he's gonna run, and now it's gonna be he's got no chance now. And I was like, well, where the f did this come from? Like, what left field?
Dude, have you ever heard
Theory?
Kennedy talk?
No, I haven't even.
Oh man, you got to listen to his voice. He has got like he sounds like he's like every single word is a challenge. Just like to get the sound out. Like it's crazy.
I
I'll
mean,
send you a clip.
scarier than the last Joe, Sleepy Joe post that he did, like that, like where he like does that weird creepy thing, and he's just like, no. I don't know if you've seen that. I was like,
No, no.
yeah, they were asking him about something, and he's like, what do you have to say? Do you have an answer for this? And he's like, he just slowly turns around and goes like, no. It was like the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this whole area is just with politics is just such it's a bad faith area. Everyone's always trying to win at the cost of other people, and for me it all comes down to the fact that there's just not there's no basic accountability for like why isn't there like a scorecard that every president goes through? Like you're saying your your team is going to accomplish X, Y, and Z over 4 years,
Like, what
and
did
then
you
over eight
achieve in this
years
time?
yeah, like every business has to do that. Every successful business has to come up with something like that and hold accountability for, if they're publicly traded, like their shareholders and if they're
A
privately
fiscal
owned.
call is what you're saying. They're supposed to have a presidential quarterly call. How am I doing? How is the country doing?
Sure.
Like that's what it should be.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
why not? Like, come on. Like, this is like,
the
you
first
know,
quarter earnings is how are we doing? Are we positive? Is there like you're I mean that's deep.
yeah. Well, okay. So it's easier for businesses because they're all like, again, if they're publicly traded, they're optimized on cost, right? And like how they're doing.
Not all of them.
And not all of them. Yeah. But you at least have that metric. And it is more complicated, I think, when you're dealing with, social issues. And again, like what this conspiracy post is talking about, right? Like all the shadow governments and all the stuff that's like
The shadow
all
council
the
is really running everything.
yeah. So it is but more complicated. But at the end of the day, there should be some kind of like report card that's just at least easily digestible for people to understand how. But again, I mean, that the problem is that who's going to trust any of the scoring, right?
No,
How do
what
you
CNN?
independently
You're gonna have
do it?
CNN and Fox doing the
Yeah.
grading? No, it's not gonna. It can't be them. Can't
Yeah,
be those
it's all
news media's grading. That's why it'll never happen. That's why it'll never work. Like to
yeah,
like really put out there like the real problems. I don't
it's
know.
all
It's
hopeless,
just
folks. It's all
it's
hopeless.
it's all smoke and mirrors, really.
All right, I think that wraps this one up because not much more to say on that one. Man, this one was a bummer.
Woo.
Did you look at this one? This one's
Yes.
kind of crazy. So again, for Morbid Reality, about 4K. Everyone's kind of commenting on this one because it's an evolving story. But basically, a missing 18-year-old boy, missing for 4 days, found unalived by a TV broadcast crew.
So
And
I do you know like the story behind the news, like how they found them?
yeah, well, I saw that there was a sporting event going on. There was a lot of drinking, right? And also, it's not like a single, like, this is ongoing from what I saw yesterday. So it's still evolving. But the leading theory was that he was trying to get onto a train, had too much to drink, didn't have his pass, and decided to hop on top of the train and then sneak his way in, I guess, is what I had read in the comments, and fell and or reached one of the electrified rails or something like that, and
This took
basically
place
knocked
in
him
what
out.
country? Because it's not. I thought it was here for. It took place in.
Spain, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
Spain. Yeah.
It's just sad. Like it's just they didn't know what happened to him and they found them. Like the picture, it is from morbid reality. Like it's really morbid just to catch something like that. Imagine you're the newscaster or just the cameraman and you accidentally find the person that they've been looking for and they are unalived. It would be traumatic. Like it made me sad when I watched it. And then I
Yeah.
read a little bit. It was just like, man, that was rough.
Yep. And I guess this raises a question. Let's answer this one during the podcast. How about that? Do we want to continue with the true crime category as it stands?
I don't
Or do you think
know.
do you feel like, and maybe if you're watching, give us some input on this one because it
This one's
feels to
always
me
hard.
this one is always challenging, and it's challenging because one, there's tons of gore that falls into this category. um it's so close to home in a lot of ways. Like there's things here that are like about interrogations, and we're also not able we don't have the time to encapsulate the story as a like an actual story the way that you would if you're doing like a one-off true crime podcast. So it doesn't really facilitate anything more than reporting, which we can do, but I feel like it stands out like a sore thumb against the rest of the content.
Yeah, it's like it's morbid. Really, like
It is.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
super morbid. It kind of changes the vibe we're pitching. Like now I'm all sad. And it
Yeah.
changes our
Yeah.
our,
Yeah.
our trajectory of what we're going because it's like we're going story, and now it's kind of like it derails us a little bit.
And I want the most bummed out thing to be is the conspiracy section, because that one already gets me kind of like every single week. I'm like looking through the top couple conspiracies, and I'm just like, oh man, to hell in a handbasket.
It really is, and I think this one is just like it's heavy. I don't know if I'm okay with heavy. I don't know if our audience is okay with heavy. If all we were covering was heavy, then
Yeah.
our target audience would come just specifically for that.
You know what? Let's cut it for next week and let's see how it
Okay.
feels, and if we want to revisit it, then we can. Not much more on this one. It's still an evolving story. They don't have like a lot of details. That's just the working theory as of I think Friday when I
It's a
took a look
tragic
at this.
accident. That's I think what it is.
Yeah. And let's hit up our number one. And of course, our number one is from the aliens community. Flying saucer captured on video over Colombia 2 weeks ago.
Oh man.
So,
like I told you, I asked my fiance, I was like, what do you think? What do you think about this? And she said what you thought it was. It was a hot air balloon. And I immediately went to Google and I typed in hot air balloon, and they don't look anything like this. So go on.
oh
They look
no,
nothing
someone
like this.
had an
Zoom into this thing. It looks nothing like a hot
hold
air balloon.
on.
Like
Look,
a
this
weather
this
balloon.
guy.
Go look for a weather
You
balloon.
look at this. You
That is
can't
not a
tell
weather
me
balloon.
that. Okay, it's a balloon though. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be like a weather balloon,
Look at its shape.
right? All right, let's zoom in on this a little bit.
Now, weather balloons do go super high. Like they go higher than airplanes. I didn't even know that they go to
Mm-hmm.
like 100,000 feet. 60 to 100,000 feet. That's some interesting information that I learned today, actually.
Okay, so first of all, there
It's a
are
UFO.
no unnatural movement patterns on this one at all. All right, it is literally going
It's going
in
one
a straight
specific
line.
trajectory. It's going just from A to B. So, yeah, I agree with you on that.
Okay, so we have that established. Number two, that's clearly that's what it is. Like clearly, like you can't tell me that's look. It's reflecting a pico balloon. Pico balloon. There's also like a whole bunch of
Okay,
these.
so what is that thing that looks like a ring around it? Like what do you it's not perfectly round.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of different balloons. Like this video that's linked, right, has
It has like a cylinder. It looks like it has a cylinder in the middle. Like Saturn is what it looks like. It's floating.
like this.
That doesn't look like it.
But use your imagination. That's what I'm saying.
I am, and I'm telling you that is not it. See, I wish there was a way you could plot this so AI could read it already and tell me if it's fake or not. So that way I'm not arguing with people and I'm sounding crazy. I was like, yeah, that's a UFO.
I think I personally I think this is a balloon. So I think just based off of the fact that it doesn't have like any unnatural movements, you know. Okay, so here's what I can say. I don't know what it is, so it's definitely unidentified, right? It's
Yeah,
definitely flying.
it definitely is. It's flying way too high. It's about how fast, the speed it's going super fast. I didn't even check to see how fast weather balloons go, and that's not what I'm saying it is.
They don't go very fast, but you got to keep in mind the plane is moving, right?
True.
So the plane is going very fast. The balloon in this video clip is going very slowly in a straight direction, right? And then that creates like
I
a
mean,
parallax.
there's someone that's gonna figure out how fast it is because the plane, what is the average speed? About 400 miles an hour, right? So the distance it does from its initial spot to the wing, someone could do the math and calculate like how fast it's going, right? It's gonna be something silly like 40 miles an hour is what the math is probably gonna say, because it's a lot slower than what you anticipate it to actually be. Like the whole things that they were filming off of San Diego, they were going about 40 miles an hour also against wind. 100 mile an hour, 180 plus mile hour winds. So this also the wind, like how do you describe the wind up there?
It's a balloon. It's so clearly a balloon, and I quote, this is from Beetlejuice times 3. It's a balloon. It's so clearly a balloon. It's stationary, and the plane is moving at 500 miles per hour.
That's what you stand. That you stand at that. It's. I'm not gonna disagree with you. I wanted to be a UFO, but it's just. It's probably a balloon.
Here's the thing, right? Like, if it had some unnatural movement in it, I would be like, okay, I don't know what that
Like
is.
if it made a sharp 90-degree turn, that's what you would say. Like, yeah. Okay, this is interesting, and you still wouldn't say it's a 100% confirmed UFO if it made a 90-degree sharp turn.
I'm not gonna say that it's one aliens until and I'm shaking hands with an alien. You know, like I think that's
you're
what
gonna
it comes
write
down to.
you're gonna draw a painting. Is that what you're gonna do? You know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like drop.
That was messed up, but yeah, you're not gonna draw a view.
Oof.
Maybe you interstellar Bigfoot, you know, interdimensional Bigfoot.
Interdimensional Bigfoot. But interstellar Bigfoot, that's a new
That's
one. Yeah,
another one.
definitely. Yeah,
No.
definitely the newest theory. Yeah, but like I'm not gonna until aliens have, you know,
Arrived.
are here and
You
it's
don't
like,
believe in the reptilian, you know, theory that they're here already and they already govern everything that we know?
that was a great movie and miniseries.
Oh my god.
Oh, I loved it so much, man. It was so good.
It was. I remember it as a kid. It used to scare me.
Dude, they filmed some of that, I think, at my high school, actually. Like some of the band shots or something before my time, before I was at the high school. But yeah, like.
I haven't seen it, not even the remake. I don't know. There was like a remake recently, right?
There was. I don't think I saw the remake now that I'm thinking about it. The miniseries I absolutely saw. And that was, you know, and it had in my head, like, oh, what if they're here? What if they're among us? You know? But all of that stuff feeds into the conspiracy theory section of existence at that point. And for me, like on conspiracies, it just turns into like, okay, well, how many people know about this thing? And it's just like, if it's more than 5, then it's in my take, right? If it's more than 5 people, then it's just gonna be public knowledge. Like conspiracies are you know, it's challenging to scale out conspiracy. You know, that's my take at least.
Okay. Okay,
Now,
so
if reptilian aliens are involved, I don't know. Maybe it's different.
So you're gonna say it's a hot air balloon?
Yeah, I think this is a balloon of some kind. You know, it's definitely not a plane. It's not another plane. It's shaped like a saucer from this angle. But listen, you could get weird angles, right? Like maybe it's tilted. Maybe it's normally in an orientation. Now it's tilted, you know?
Like it could also have been, because you know how they have like that. It's like the circular part, and then there's something that tethers down. It could have also wrapped around it too, that caused it. You know, it could have also malfunctioned, that causes it to seem like that ring, that causes it to look like a UFO, and I'm going to say that is possibly a weather balloon. And you're right about its trajectory, how fast it's moving. These are actually quite common, these videos. I don't know, this is like maybe like the 10th or 15th one in this UFO community. They get recorded all the time.
You should watch the Corridor Crew videos because they intentionally posted on, I think it was our UFOs with VFX footage, and they got caught out pretty quickly actually, which I thought was the interesting. Yeah, the guy screwed up and he didn't update the metadata, and so the metadata had in it like Ted's fake UFO .mp4 or whatever. So it was like obvious that it was like,
Fake. Like this is
faked. Yeah, but then
You'd
they
be
did another
surprised how
one that was from
many.
Tesla.
I would, the one thing that does get me about the UFO community and um, the lack of actual really good videos or even fake videos is really low. Like you would expect a lot more people to be posting fake videos because some of them are really bad. But there is some quality, you know, I would just say people that can manufacture these, that would take the time. But I think maybe the editing is the problem, and then the whole mapping and then putting it into, stock footage and making this real. That's what I think is a challenge with them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do exactly like the footage that they faked. Came the It was in a plane similar to this, but it was like a personal plane, I guess, like a pilot plane, and it was from the cockpit.
Is that where the
And
one you can see the propellers? There's one that was
no,
similar to this. It was exactly like that. It says like uh internet influencer captures UFO. And it's exactly like this. And there's like a yeah, that's it. But like I said, these videos get posted like this all the time, like someone records it. So they're probably weather balloons.
yeah, well, that's the other thing is they also did another video where a viewer sent them something to debunk. He was like, "Listen, I did a time lapse night scene, and I don't know what this thing is that's going around the sky like this over 5 hours." And so originally he sent them like something that was encoded, and they're like, can you send us the raw files? And he sent them the raw files. So that immediately proved that the footage was real. And everyone on the crew was looking at it thinking like, oh, this looks compelling, this looks great. But then as they started to dig into it, it was just a weather balloon. It was from Google, and it was a it was a balloon that they launched that lasts a year or something, and it's super high up in the air, so you can only see it at night. And the pattern that it was going looked very unnatural, but that's because it was raising and lowering itself so that different wind was going to be pushing it and pulling it in different directions. And it was very slow moving, and it looked great. It looked great, and it was, and the person wasn't trying to like,
They're like,
the
help me out with
original.
this. I don't know what this is.
Yeah,
This is something interesting, and I would have never guessed that in 1,000 years. That could be then a Google satellite or Google balloon capturing images to help out with,
yeah,
for me getting home faster from West Hills to North Hollywood.
yeah. I like, who knows, right? And that's why it's like I think just like watching their video series has given me a pretty good, like, I'm not going to be an expert in that area. I'm okay with that, but just as a foundation, I think it's really good to pay attention to some of the common things that they're mentioning in those videos. And one of them is like, hey, it's in a straight line. I mean, if you take a plane and like the plane is going like this. If the object is fixed with it and they're moving together, it's a little sus. That's a little set up like there's a camera scene in there, right? And you're trying to keep everything in the frame. So there's little things like that lower the credibility of footage that you're looking at. And there's other things like the fact that it goes straight across, right? And doesn't have any unnatural movement at all. That's also a little bit sus. That points to it being a balloon in some case. So like I'm really like, I definitely want to get some more debunking skills over the next year and figure out some of these common patterns. And the reality is that from what I can tell, the UFO community is actually really good at debunking a lot of the stuff that people throw at them.
Yeah, remember the thing about the whole Malaysian Air? Like they
Yeah.
debunked it in like 12 hours. Like it was like top right away post. Yeah, this has been debunked. This is coming from an After Effects insert. You could tell from the data, and it comes from this specific video game. It's this specific explosion, and I was like, wow, that's really good. They even were looking at the drone, saying like the drones from this time didn't even have cameras. Like this is not
Yeah.
You know, this is not military recorded stuff. And yeah, they debunked it. Like the own community debunked it.
Yeah, and that's, it's a good. I'm really excited about that, and that's one of the things that I think after I'd watched the corridor videos, I was even more hyped that we're doing this podcast and growing it and starting to get everything dialed in, because it's not just, we talked a lot about people that potentially think are crazy, which I don't think that's a fair thing to say. I wouldn't call them crazy, but people who are falling into the categories of bad faith, where they're just trying to get attention, people who have some issue where they actually believe the thing, but it's not objectively true. It's not true outside of their head, right? There's all these like little subcategories of things that we want to rule out, and it's really exciting to see that the Reddit communities are trying to do that.
I
Right?
mean, the Bigfoot community is
doing
really
it.
good at that too. They try to debunk it
Yeah,
very quickly. The UFO community debunks it very quickly.
yeah. That's skeptics and believers. It's peanut butter and chocolate. You
Yeah.
know, that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
That's the way it
it's
should
more
be.
debunking, and it's just like I'll sit there and I'll watch something, and I'll browse the internet at work, Reddit, and I'll see something. I'll be like, ooh, and then I'll wait for all the comments to come through, and then I'll sit there and I'll start reading them, and then right away I'm just like, yeah, that's what it is. Like I agree. Like none, I've never found a video that they could not debunk. Like I haven't seen it. I haven't had one posted yet where they say like I don't know what this really is. Like I can't prove that it's not a true UFO. I haven't experienced that in either of them.
We all want to see something extraordinary. It's just whether or not that thing is real, right? Like that's the thing that I think everyone wants to hone in on.
Definitely.
Well, I think that wraps up this week in Redacted, our top 5 abnormal news articles for the week. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. It helps us build the channel. We're new YouTubers. We're absolutely new to all of this.
Hit that bell
And
notification. That's the one thing you forgot.
man, I don't never hit the bell notification, but if you decide to hit the bell notification, thank you. We
There's
appreciate
some of
that.
the like some YouTubers that I do hit the bell notification, but then most of them I don't. So hit that bell notification.